The ending may flip on the lights and quickly tidy things up, but by that time, Stranger on the Third Floor has spewed out more fear and paranoia than can be packed away in any hasty wrap-up. Director of photography Nicholas Musaraka, whom I've name-checked many times in Noir Alley, would become one of the essential visionaries of the film noir era. After making a string of evocative horror films for RKO's B Unit, Musaraka graduated to A Pictures, but he never stepped far from the shadows. Fallen Sparrow, Deadline at Dawn, The Locket, and Out of the Past are only a few of the film noirs that benefited from his exceptional camera work. The spectacular work of art director Van Nest Polglaes is more of a surprise. At this time, he was known primarily for the sumptuous Art Deco fantasies he designed for RKO musicals starring Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers. Stranger on the Third Floor is a long way from Top Hat and Follow the Fleet. Polglaes would go directly from this picture to production work on a far more influential film released the following year, Citizen Kane, routinely cited as the greatest and most influential movie ever made. Stranger on the Third Floor, by contrast, languished in obscurity for decades. Yet both films can claim to have challenged and changed the grammar of Hollywood storytelling. No one, however, would mistake Boris Inkster, the director of this film, for Orson Welles, where Welles was larger than life, announcing his arrival in Hollywood like a carny barker. Inkster toiled almost anonymously in the margins. As a director, he has only 3 films on his resume. Inkster was born in Latvia, and he'd learned filmmaking as an assistant to inventive and influential Russian director Sergei Eisenstein. He accompanied Eisenstein to Hollywood in the early 30s, when some folks in the industry were courting the avant-garde filmmaker. Well, all that went bust when Eisenstein abandoned his ambitious project Que Viva Mexico and returned to Russia. But Inkster stayed in Hollywood, working primarily as a writer during the 1930s, one prized in studio front offices as a constructionist, a particularly energetic idea man. His most valued colleague was writer Nathaniel West, author of the darkest novel ever written about Hollywood, The Day of the Locust. Inkster and West cranked out a number of movie stories together. In fact, West contributed the uncredited final polish to the script of Stranger on the Third Floor, which marked Inkster's maiden effort as a director. The pair also adapted the novel Before the Fact, which after several rewrites would be made by Alfred Hitchcock in 1941 as Suspicion. Now, Inkster wouldn't make another feature film for 7 years, that being the obscure but wonderful The Judge Steps Out, released by RKO in 1949. Southside 1000, made the following year, would be Inkster's final feature, and it returned him to the world of noir, although in much more conventional form than what you just witnessed. Now, Southside 1000 was recently preserved in 35mm by the Film Noir Foundation. One other aspect of Stranger on the Third Floor that would become somewhat of a staple in noir is the spunky girlfriend who solves the mystery while the leading man spirals into psychosis. You know, the realistic aspect of these films. In this case, said spunkette is played by Margaret Talichet, who had only a few bit parts to her credit before being cast as the single ray of light in this otherwise gloomy affair. Her distinctive look showed up only twice more on screen before the actress retired to be a wife and mother of 5. See, another director had already cast her in his life story. William Wyler and Tally had married in 1938, and they'd remain one of Hollywood's most popular couples right up until his death in 1981. Now, if you want to get in on the debate and tell us what you believe was the first film noir, we've got just the place to do it. Go to the Noir Alley pages on Facebook and Twitter and sound off. Now, next week, I'll be presenting another film from RKO Radio Pictures, The House of Noir, as I call it. And this 1947 offering is one of the rare noir films to be nominated for Best Picture, as well as earning nods for its screenplay, direction, and supporting actor and actress. So be sure to be here next week for for crossfire. Until then, stay in the shadows. Just don't get swallowed up in them.